So today we are going to be covering probably the most important part of the NEPQ process of any sales process. It's going to be the first 7 seconds of your call. Now, why do I say the first 7 seconds? It takes about 7 seconds for anyone to recognize a sales call. And we all know like what happens as soon as somebody recognizes a sales call. Walls go up, right? Resistance goes up through the roof. And that takes about 7 seconds to identify. Now, if you start screaming at the first beginning of your call, it's probably going to take like 3 seconds, but usually like about 7 seconds for them to figure it out. So I want to tell you guys a story about when I got started in this space, where I like really got started kind of working like the better quality leads and doing that whole game. And what came as a surprise to me, maybe it's come as a surprise to some of you guys as well. So what I was doing is I was going by old age leads. And so I would go to these PPL providers. I knew that they had to have leads that no one's closed yet. They had to. And so I was getting pretty good at sales. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to call these leads that everyone's already called, and whoever hasn't closed them, like I'll just close those. And the benefit to that was I would get them. I didn't have a lot of money, so I would get them for like $1 a piece. Whereas if you buy a lead from like a PPL company, depending on your market, you're talking about $75 all the way up to $750 per lead, right? Didn't have that kind of money. So I was thinking, all right, this is going to be a cakewalk. I'm going to call these leads. I know they want to sell. They're inbound leads. Like they already filled out a form. Let me just call them and talk to them. And so I was going through at first, I was going through kind of like the same process. What does everybody else teach, right? Hey, how you doing today? Right? Hey, how's it going? Now, think about this. When somebody just comes up to you, they don't know you at all, and they like maybe come up to you, somebody will walk out with their hand out and like, hey, how's it going? You're automatically, your guard's up. And I'll tell you a recent experience I had with this, not too recent. My son's like 11 months old now. And this was back when my girlfriend was pregnant. So I don't know, maybe a year ago. And we're at the hospital. She's sitting down, or at the clinic, whatever, doing the checkup. She's sitting down, and this guy was selling like some sort of insurance plan, and just comes up out of nowhere, like super, like, he's dressed in a suit. He looks nice, but comes up out of nowhere with his hand out up to me, like shaking my hand, like direct eye contact, shaking out to shake my hand. The first thing I did was grab her and put her behind me. Now, why would I do that? Like, I don't know who this guy is. So I just grabbed her and I put her behind me. And then I addressed him, right? And eventually I had to tell him, like, dude, go away. Now, why was that my immediate reaction? Because I have no idea who he is. And the sellers are thinking the same thing every time you pick up the phone. They think that you could be a threat. And so your brain is typically in 2 categories. It's either in fight or flight mode, or it's in rest and digest mode, right? Fight or flight mode, that is why you are getting sellers shutting down, not answering your questions. They're in fight or flight. Now, you can't blame them for that. That's their brain protecting them. And back in the day, it would be protecting them from animals or other tribes. Today, it's protecting them from scams, right? People just calling, getting their personal information and using it against them. So different times, same brain. We still have the same monkey brain that we had thousands of years ago. So I realized that when I was calling my PPL leads that I was buying the old age leads, I would call them, hey, how are you doing? What would happen? Click, boom, hang up. Or like the most common thing is like, hey, Bob, it's just John over at Sell Easy SoCal. Like, how's it going today? Good. What can I do for you? Or good. What can I help you with? Or good. What do you need? Right out the gate, immediately they take the driver's seat. Good. Like, what can I help you with? Like, what's going on? Right. And they're automatically skeptical, which they should be, because they have hundreds of people calling them, every single week, especially if they're buying age leads. So if you're cold calling, same thing. They're skeptical. We need to break through that resistance. And so what I learned to do, and that's what we're going to teach in this training, is called a pattern interrupt. So their brains, they have the pattern. Phone rings up, phone rings, skeptical, right? Who is this? Let me identify if this is a threat or not, right? What we need to learn how to do is break through that pattern. We need to get them to lower their resistance, right? We need to get them to lower that resistance. And the way that we do that is by triggering curiosity. So we need to trigger curiosity to get them to lower resistance. So I'm going to pull up a Miro board here, and we are going to walk through the step-by-step process in your connection phase to lower resistance for sellers and get them to open up through the rest of your conversation, right? That's the only point of the connection phase. We need to get them to open up so you can get into the rest of your conversation without them feeling like you're trying to sell them something. So we're going to jump right into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and I am going to pull up my Miro board. All right. Hopefully you guys can all see this, and I'm going to, yeah, we got it. I wanted to check my Facebook page to make sure it's shown on there as well. So there are 3 steps to the connection phase. It's a 3-step process. These are the only 3 things that we need to accomplish in our connection phase. And when we say the connection phase, if you guys are new to this channel, that is the introduction of your script. Like a lot of people call this like your intro. We call it the connection phase. This is where you connect with your sellers, right? So step 1. Oh, there we go. We need to disarm them and generate curiosity. So we need to disarm them and generate curiosity. And we're going to walk you through exactly how to do that in a second. Step 2. This is probably the most common mistake when I have any of the advanced students or guys in the school group, like anybody that reached out, they show me a call and they're like, I don't know where I should have gone here. Like, I don't know what I should have done. And I always go back to this one thing. Okay, well, why are they there? If you don't know why they're there, it's really hard to have the rest of the conversation, right? So imagine you were out shopping for windows, right? And you're calling some like Windows sales reps. One Windows sales rep just starts kind of like selling you a bunch of random stuff. The other one goes, okay, just so I can understand, like high level, what's the main reason that you're looking for new windows? Not a very salesy question. It's a reasonable question that we need to ask. And if we're going to try to actually help somebody. And then I might say, well, you know what? The neighbors just got a new dog and I can hear the dog barking all day and all night. So what I'm really looking for is like more of those soundproof windows, right? The ones that don't let the noise in. Okay. So you're looking for more of like the soundproof windows. Well, that makes sense how we might be able to help you. Now, the rest of the conversation can be around, what kind of windows do I have now? What kind of noise is coming in? What's that doing to me? Is it bothering me while I'm working, right? I can start generating some of that pain in not really generating the pain, but uncovering some of that pain, helping the prospect feel that pain in the situation phase, right? But before I do that, high level, I need to understand why are they there, right? What are they looking to get out of the call? So step 2 is that. Excuse me, guys. Find out why they're there. And then step 3, if I can get my voice back, is going to be to set the expectation, set the stage of the call. Now, let me show you guys the wrong way to do this and the right way. So when I say set the stage of the call, if you download any script you can find online, and I'm not going to name the guys, like, you guys know the guys, right? They will go into this like super high pressure expectation setting, and it sounds super salesy, right? So that might sound something like, okay, and the reason for the call today, okay, and the purpose of this call, or yeah, and this call is going to go like this, right? Super, super salesy, super high pressure, and it sounds very scripted. And then even worse is when you go in and say, yeah, this call is really just for me to find out if you're a good fit for us and if we're a good fit for you. And at the end of this call, all I ask for is a hard yes or hard no. Now, if you were able to disarm the prospect in the first 7 seconds, you found out why they were there. You got like a high level overview of like what they were looking to solve. And then you set the stage of the call like that, resistance goes all the way back up, right? Now your resistance went right up here, right? Why? Because you just put them into a corner and you said, you need to make a decision, yes or no, right out the gate. Like, I need you to make a decision. Now their default is going to go, no, I don't want to make a decision today, right? Even if they would have before, they're like, well, I don't want to be pressured to make a decision, right? But if you walked onto a car lot, you were going to buy a car, and the salesman shook your hand, said, hey, Bob, you seem like a straightforward guy. Whether you buy today, I don't care. I just need you to give me a hard yes or hard no on what car you want and if you'll buy it today. Is that fair? You're going to be like, what the fuck? Why did he just say that? Right? Doesn't make any sense. Do they need to buy today? No, they could buy tomorrow. They could buy the next day, right? We need to be able to figure out if we can even help them. And we don't know that yet, right? And so instead of saying the words right fit, we're going to go over some other language that we can use to actually lower the resistance and still set the frame of the call. So when we set the stage of the call, we want to raise our status. We don't want to decrease our status, right? So I'm going to add that in, set the stage of the call, and raise our status. So this is it. It's literally just this 3-step process for your connection phase. That's all you need to do is follow this. And I'm going to walk you guys through exactly how to do that. So step 1, I'm going to go inbound and I'm going to go outbound. They're very similar, but they have some slight tweaks. So the first thing I want to do, I mentioned the pattern interrupt earlier, right? When you want to interrupt the pattern in their brain. So I'm going to say, hey, seller, can you hear me? Now, when I do this, the tonality is everything, right? It's 80%, it's 20% what you say, it's 80% how you say it. So if I say, hi, is this Bob? What does that sound like? I sound like a freaking call center from the Pakistan. Hi, is this Bob? Right? Salesperson immediately, right? Now, how do you call a friend, right? Or like your mom, right? I'll call my mom and say, hey, Mom, can you hear me? Hey, Bob, can you hear me? Hey, Bob, can you hear me? Now, what does that do? I'm going to say that in a familiar tone, right? Hey, Bob, can you hear me? I know their name already, right? Now, this is for leads, by the way, guys. This isn't for like cold calling. We'll go into that at a different time if you're trying to cold call. A lot of these principles still apply, but this is for like actually talking to leads, whether someone else cold called them for you, it was an inbound lead, or they filled out something on a website. You're going to have their name, right? So you don't want to say, hi, is this, right? Immediately you just trigger resistance. They don't know me. This is probably a salesperson or something that I should be worried about, right? So I'll say, hey, Bob, can you hear me? Like, yeah. They're still going to be, now they're going to be curious at this point. Because you just said their name like that, they're like, yeah, who's this? That's going to trigger curiosity, not skepticism, but curiosity, right? And that's what we want to trigger in their brain to lower the resistance. Now what we want to do is I'm going to put here a familiar tone. We want to sound like this. Yeah, Bob. Let me just type it out for you, and then I'll go over it. It's just John Lalonde over at Sell Easy SoCal. Okay, so I'm going to go over just that line. So when I do this, I want to sound familiar. What I want to trigger in the prospect's brain and the seller's brain is, John, I should know that. He sounds like I should know him. I should know that name. Yeah, Bob, it's just John. It's John Lalonde over at Sell Easy SoCal. Yeah, it looks like you had just filled out a form on our website about, I don't know, possibly selling the property on 123 Main Street. Is that right? So now we're going to go into that. So this is just addressing what they did. It looks like now we want to be non-assumptive here. And now we're going to use our curious tone. So it's curious. It's non-assumptive. What I don't want to sound like is a robot. Yeah, it looks like you just filled out a form on our website about possibly selling your property on 123 Main Street, right? That's just going to trigger them to respond the exact same way. Yeah, I did. What's up? Right? Yeah, it looks like you had just filled out a form on our website, and I'm letting them digest it, right? I'm pausing to let them digest what I'm saying. I'm keeping the pace slow so I don't trigger any of that resistance. I don't want to trigger that fight or flight response. If I talk too fast, I'm going to trigger the fight or flight response. It's going to cause them to shut down, right? So what I want to do is, it looks like you just filled out a form on our website about possibly, I want to highlight possibly, selling your property on 123 Main Street. Is that right? Okay. Now, when I do this, I want to put emphasis on this word possibly. I don't want to assume that they are 100% selling, because what happens when you call somebody and says, yeah, it looks like you were needing a cash offer on your home on 123 Main Street. They're going to go, well, you know what? I don't need to sell. I don't need to sell. Like, I just want to hear the offers. Or, oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm just kind of like looking at my options, right? You hear that a lot. Yeah, I'm just kind of like looking at my options. That's because you triggered that in their brain. You triggered for them to say that, right? Now, let me go outbound here. So this is going to be inbound. And if you guys don't know the difference between outbound and inbound, basically the difference is outbound, their first piece of contact with your company was a human. Texting, cold call, ringless voicemail. Like, I don't think anybody's doing that anymore, but those like 3 major platforms. Inbound, the first piece of contact they had with your company was a piece of marketing material. The only difference in our industry. Now, some people call inbound teams like book a call on your calendar and outbound teams reaching out to leads. But in our industry, we keep it pretty simple. Inbound, marketing material first, outbound, human contact first. Cool. So we're going to go and do, there we go. Outbound. Now, I'll tell you what I don't like. And this is even when people know the script and they decide to put this little tweak in here. I can tell you a million ways that people do outbound the wrong way as well. But people that even like get the script, maybe they got the copy of the script and they try to modify it. So what I'll do here is same thing. Hey, seller, can you hear me? And then I'll do basically all the same stuff, right? Yeah, Bob, it's just John. And I like to pause there. Sounds super familiar. This is just John. John Lalonde over at Sell Easy SoCal. Now, with outbound, they didn't fill out a form, right? So I can't say like, it looks like you just reached out to us. They're going to get super triggered by that. So I like to say, it looks like you just spoke to, and then I want to have a name here. Human contact, right? I get so annoyed every time I call Chase and then they're like, can you say your name? Can you tell me why you're calling? All right, let me transfer you. Can you say your name? Can you tell me why you're calling? Like, they have no contact with each other, right? You have a lot better customer experience when you're like, yeah, okay, so you just spoke to Jim. Jim kind of filled me in that you were looking to accomplish X, Y, and Z. So that's what we're going to cover today. You're like, wow, okay, don't have to repeat myself, right? So what I like to add, because I have a little bit more information on outbound, is let's say our cold caller's name is Ed, right? So it looks like you just spoke to Ed about possibly selling your property on 123 Main Street. So you can. And then I'm going to repeat back any sort of information that I have, right? At the very least, your cold callers typically have, looking to sell to downsize, looking to sell to relocate, looking to sell to get away from being a landlord, right? One of those things, right? So I'm going to repeat that back to them. Now, if I don't have anything, I can just leave it as it looks like you spoke to Ed about possibly selling your property on 123 Main Street. Is that right? Right. But if I have something, yeah, it looks like you just spoke to Ed about possibly selling your property on 123 Main Street so that you can, move down to Florida with your kids. Is that right? Right. So repeat back what they want. And then, is that right? Okay. So now we just covered this. We just disarmed them and we generated curiosity. We sound curious. We triggered curiosity in their brain. So we're going to scratch that right off. Okay. Now we need to find out why they are there. Just like the example with the windows, right? You can't structure your conversation without knowing high level why they're there. So I go about this different on inbound and outbound. But on inbound, what I'll do is I'll say, so it looks like you found us on, and then I'll repeat back the source. So this could be YouTube, Google, Facebook, or I could say a mailer, right? Million different things. And in the advanced group, we go into like, okay, mailers are going to be a little bit different. Like Google's going to be a little bit different. So I don't have time to cover all of that today. There's a million different channels that you could do, but you should have something, even with PPL, and you don't know, you might say like, oh, it looks like you found us online, right? Or you found us through an ad, right? Something like that. Now, what you want to ask is, what was it about the ad that caused you to want to look into this a bit further? So we are still on finding out why they're there, right? So the first thing I like to do is, so it looks like you found us on YouTube. Why do I ask that? How many people get leads and they say like, oh, I didn't fill anything out? When they just filled out a form, I call them within 3 minutes and I say, oh, it looks like you found us on YouTube. Really hard to deny, right? So it looks like you found us on YouTube. Yeah, I was just kind of scrolling around. Oh, okay. And what was it about the ad that caused you to, I don't know, maybe you want to look into this bit further? Now notice my pacing there. I'm going to slow down and I'm going to verbal pace it out so I can let them digest the question, right? If I talk too fast, all they are going to do is just get triggered, right? So that is going to be how I find out why they're there. I'm going to go into a little bit further if they don't give you anything. So let's say like, looks like you found us on YouTube. Yeah. What was it about the ad that caused you want to look into this further? They say, oh yeah, just kind of looking at my options. Just wanted to see. Right? They would just throw you like a vague answer. We're going to go into that in a second. Now, outbound is a little bit different. So I can say, okay, cool. So he filled me in. You're looking to repeat back what they're after. Okay, so yeah, he filled me in that you were looking to like move down to Florida. I guess high level here. What about that conversation to look at right? So, okay. Yeah, look, okay, cool. So he filled me in like that you were looking to kind of move down to Florida to maybe like get closer to your kids. I guess high level here, just so I can get an understanding. What was it about that conversation that you had with Ed that caused you to, I don't know, maybe want to look at this as an option to help you do that? Now, you don't have to get that wordy. You can even just say, okay, high level here. What was it about that conversation that you had with Ed that caused you to maybe want to, I don't know, look into this a bit further? Now, I'm not going to say, want to sell your house, want to do this, right? All they are doing at this point is looking into this a bit further, right? So now we're going to go into this works for both inbound and outbound. There's just like one little tweak. So what happens, you're probably wondering, if they say, oh yeah, just nothing really, just was curious, right? I'm just curious, right? Now you could dive into that a little bit more. You can clarify and probe. But what I like to do is set a little bit of a frame here. So I'll say, not a problem. And I don't know how much you went through our website. Now, this is going to be for inbound, how much you went through our website. For outbound, I might say, how much Ed walked you through what we do here, right? So Yeah, I'm not sure how much you went through our website and kind of saw what we do, or I'm not sure how much Ed, walked you through what we do here. But typically, we work with people that are looking to sell their house maybe a little quicker. And then you could say, or without working with a realtor, or, you have to do all those repairs and not really know what your house is going to sell for. Align with what you're looking for. Or are you looking for something different? Okay. All right. So from there, I'm going to show you guys how to paste this out. Yeah, that's not a problem. And I don't know how much you went through our website and kind of like saw what we do, but typically we work with people that are looking to sell their house, I don't know, maybe a little quicker, or like without, working with a realtor where you have to do all the repairs and not really know what your house is going to sell for. Is that kind of in line with what you were looking for, or were you looking for something different? Right? Now, why am I asking that? Most of the time, like when we implemented this in our script, most of the time people say, yes, that is what I'm looking for. So then you can just slap them on the butt. Okay, cool. You're in the right place. Let's go. Let's get started, right? We're going to go into the rest of our connection phase, but you know why they're there. And you can even clarify on that and ask them, okay, like specifically, what was it? And they're like, it's quicker, right? Or it's without the showings. It's without the realtors. It's without the uncertainty. They might give you a little piece right there, right? But at this point, you will figure out why they are there, right? And that will help you guide the rest of your conversation. Now, the last part of this, so let me just go here. So we found out why they're there here. Okay. So I'm going to scratch that out. Boom. Now, what we need to do is we need to set the expectation, set the stage of the call. We want to do that while we raise our status. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. How can you set the expectation and raise your status? So for this one, I'm just going to copy and paste it. Let's get away from typing for a second. So when I set the expectation to call, again, I don't want to sound like I am putting them in some sort of box, right? So instead of saying like, the purpose of this call today, we are going to downplay the call. This is going to lower their resistance even more. We're going to downplay the call. And that sounds like this. Yeah, and this first call, it's pretty basic. Or you can say, yeah, you know what? In this first call, it's kind of more on like the basic side. And then we set the stage. It's really more for us to find out like a little bit more about the property, the condition it's in, and like when you're possibly looking to sell, just to see if we could do any good for you. Now, I'm going to add something there at the tail end if they gave me some sort of resistance. So if they said, yeah, I'm just kind of looking at my options. I might keep it. I might sell it. I'm not really sure. Or like, yeah, I'm just looking at my options. I have a realtor that I work with, but I wanted to see what this option is. So then I'll add something to that last part. And so I'll say, yeah, this first call, it's pretty basic. It's really just more for us to learn a little bit more about the property, like the condition it's in and like when you're possibly looking to sell, really just to see if we can do any good for you. Cause you could be better off just listing it with that realtor. You could be better off just keeping the house. Are you with me there? Right. So why would I do that? Would a salesperson say you could be better off and then doing something that is their direct competition? Probably not. Right. If you go to a car lot and you are at, I don't know, Nissan, and you're like, yeah, I kind of want to go check out Toyota. They typically don't say, yeah, you could be better off just going to Toyota. I'm not really sure yet. What do? They start bashing Toyota. They go, Toyota, why would you go to Toyota? Now, what do? You start backing up why you like Toyota, why Toyota is a good option, right? So if you say, well, why would you go list it on the market? they're going to go, well, I could get more money. Like, I have a really good realtor that's going to drop her commission. All they are going to do is sell to you why they should go with the other option. And with NEPQ, what we teach you how to do is get the seller to sell themselves to you as to why they want to work with you, not the other way around, right? We are not selling them. So we want to downplay that. So that is how we set the expectation of the call. When we do this, we raise our status. We go from needy sales rep that's like, oh, but why do you need to go do XYZ, to completely detached from the outcome. And we are actually able to get them to open up about why they want to sell, what their problems are later on in the call when we do this. Now, if you want to increase your status even further, right? Let's say you have a seller that's trying to push you off the phone. They're trying to rush you off the phone, right? What you can do there is you can say, yeah, you know what? This first call, it's pretty basic, and I actually don't have a ton of time here before my next appointment. It looks like it's in 30 minutes, but usually it's really just more for us to find out a little bit more about the property, and so I'll go there. You don't even have to say 30 minutes. You can say 5 minutes. Yeah, you know what? I don't have a ton of time here. I've only have a couple minutes. Now, what does that do? It raises your status that you are busy. You have other clients that you can work with, and you don't need their business, right? That is our goal with the connection phase. That is our 3-step process. Works for inbound, works for outbound, right? So we disarm them, we create curiosity, we find out why they're there, and then we set the stage of our call while we raise our status. So that is all the time that we have for today. If you guys haven't seen our school community, you want to get some more one-on-one help, maybe you need to role play this. Maybe you want some like actual calls with other people that are doing this every single day. You can reach out. We have an entire school community just for this, where you'll actually get coached by me twice a week. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, let me know. You can find the school community inside the Facebook group. There's links everywhere, and I will see you guys on the next call. Peace, everybody.